Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the live recap of AEW Double or Nothing 2020. It is late. It is almost midnight, and I just recently moved to the East Coast. I am not used to doing these recaps so late. So bear with me, everybody. Hopefully the adrenaline gets me through. Thank you to everyone tuning in live this late. I do appreciate it. And if you guys are going to send in super chats, please try to send them in with a topic that I'm discussing rather than jumping way ahead. I know you guys are eager to go all over the place and talk about random matches, but I do want to try and be as focused with this recap as possible. So if you guys can, try to stick to the topic with the super chats. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into this because this could be a long live stream here. It is late. We kicked off with the buy-in, which was at 7:30 Eastern. If I was going to have one piece of criticism about this show, and there's not much, this show was phenomenal. One piece of criticism, started earlier. Started at 7 o'clock Eastern. Hell, start the actual main pay-per-view at 6 Eastern and ended at 10 Eastern. It just went on for so long, and I'm just totally drained. There was so much on this show to digest because it went so long. I mean, it was about 4.5 hours, including the buy-in. The buy-in match was Private Party versus the Best Friends. Pretty solid buy-in match. I would say it was better than most WWE kickoff matches. These guys got a good amount of time back and forth between the two teams. Eventually, Best Friends won with the strong zero, which I figured they would because they've been the more pushed of the two teams in recent months in AEW. Good stuff here to start off the show. And then we had the official pay-per-view kickoff with the Casino ladder match. There's a lot to discuss with this one. This match went almost 40 minutes. Long match here. We kicked off the pay-per-view, the actual main pay-per-view, with a special thank you to the first responders. And there was also a graphic in memory of Shad Gaspard from Crime Time. They had the graphic over a video clip of ocean waves, which some people were offended by. I'm sure there will be mixed reactions to that in the chat room. Cindy with a $5 super chat, first one of the evening, says, Private Party pay a tribute to Crime Time with the G9. Thank you for pointing that out, Cindy. I do believe that there was a mention of Shad during the match, so thank you for reminding me of that. Was a nice little touch there, paying tribute to Shad. Noah Foster with a $2 super chat says, beautiful tribute and a great opening match. I agree, Noah, and thank you for the super chat. We had the crowd out there, which was basically the wrestlers and some crew. You had Vicky Guerrero out there as part of the audience, which I liked. I think it's kind of cool to have some legends out there sitting at ringside. Added to the show for sure. W Glass 90 says the ocean graphic was a little too much. We had this match take place as a Royal Rumble style match. It was a ladder match, but with Royal Rumble rules where it started off with 2 people and then every 2 minutes a new person entered the match. So luck of the draw could potentially be a factor in this match. It started off with Scorpio Sky and Kazarian from SCU. And then after the first 2 minutes, we had Kip Sabian make his entrance. Jimmy Havoc, who was not part of the match, got involved and was attacking Kazarian and Sky with a ladder. Darby Allin was the next person to come out, and Darby did some crazy ass stuff in this match, including climbing up a ladder with his skateboard, jumping off the ladder, attempting to put Kazarian through a ladder that was set up below. However, didn't really work out for him, and he basically crashed and burned, and a pretty nasty fall here from Darby Allin. Orange Cassidy was the next person out, and he was basically the opposite of Darby Allin. He did not want to take any risks whatsoever. He just stood on the ladder, hoping that that would be enough to reach up and grab the casino chip, which was basically the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's a guaranteed opportunity at the AEW World Championship. Ken terminated by Google with a $5 super chat. Going off topic here, like I thought people might start doing, says, Rift, are you familiar with Hannah's passing? Did AEW mention her passing? I shake my head over why she died. F the trolls. Well, this is basically a different topic for a different video, but yes, AEW did acknowledge it later in the show, and Excalibur had a few words. Let me get back to the match here. Orange Cassidy tried to just set up the ladder without actually unfolding it, and it just fell to the ground. Cole Cabana was the next entrant in the match, and Cabana shoved Cassidy out of the ring, attempted to climb the ladder the proper way, but was stopped by SCU. Joey Janela came out next, did a running dive off the stage onto everybody. And then Luchasaurus was the 8th person in the match. He cleaned house, hit all the big moves to everybody. But then the final entrant made his arrival, the mystery entrant. And that person was Brian Cage, former Impact Wrestling star Brian Cage, making his AEW debut. He was supposed to debut a couple months back, but he got injured. He came back with a vengeance here, something to prove. And he was out there with Taz. It looks like it wasn't made official, although I'm guessing it will be at some point, probably on Dynamite. Taz being the manager for Brian Cage. Hopefully, Taz is able to do more with Cage than he was Samoa Joe about a decade ago. Joe E with a $2 super chat says, this was the best wrestling show of the year. Well, it was certainly a very eventful one, that's for sure. And an action-packed one at that. So, Brian Cage was just destroying everybody, and it took pretty much everybody to get him off the ladder and beat him down a little bit. And then 5 of the guys grabbed one of those giant casino chips that are used as part of the set. And the 5 guys placed the chip over Brian Cage so he was incapacitated. He could not move and get back into the match. Eventually, he was able to do so, however. But as the match continued, you had Penelope Ford coming out, trying to interfere. Best Friends came out to try and even the odds. Marco Stunt came out at one point. They had a step ladder, which he climbed, and he helped out Luchasaurus. Got a $3 super chat from Nicholas Easy, says, I love Joey Janela's response to getting suplexed by Cage. Yeah, that was pretty fun. I liked that. And Tony H with the $2 super chat says, Darby versus Cage should be a feud after tonight. Well, what was teased during this was Brian Cage versus Luchasaurus. The two of them, the two big monsters, went at it for a while. And Janela gave Cassidy a DVD onto the casino chip that was crushing Brian Cage. And this led to Cage being able to get back into the match. TJS with a $2 super chat did not get my memo from earlier. Was the Stampede match better than the Money in the Bank match? Yes, it was. And Dylan Hensley with a $5 super chat says, Yo, Aaron, another awesome AEW show. It was a good show despite no crowd, with the stadium match making it a great show. AEW deserves higher ratings. I agree with that, Dylan. Thank you for the super chat. And again, guys, please try to stick to the topic if you're going to send in a super chat, just so I don't bounce around all over the place. I apologize, guys. It's just very late, and I want to try to get through this in a structured way, if at all possible. And Ken, terminated by Google with a $2 super chat, or $3 super chat, says, my bad rift, had to make sure AEW mentioned Hannah. That they did. Cage got back into the match, and he picked up Darby Allin, who was laying on this ladder. They kind of screwed up the spot. They had to cut to Taz for a minute, but they did get the spot done. Some people on Twitter did not like this because they're like, Darby's just laying there forever on this ladder. Cage picked up the ladder with Darby Allin on it and tossed Allin all the way down to the floor. Allin taking yet another brutal bump. And then Cage climbed up the ladder to grab the casino chip and win the casino ladder match. His first AEW match. Brian Cage will now get an opportunity in the future for an AEW title match against the champion. So this was a really entertaining match. It was very long, but all the different people coming in and all these different things happening kept it interesting. I would say more interesting than Randy Orton versus Edge. They were able to keep it fresh. The 40 minutes, I got to say, they flew by for me. So really good, strong opening to the show. I like Brian Cage's debut. Good stuff here to utilize him. Should have gone with him as the pick because we all knew he was coming in sooner than later. It was pretty much all but a certainty. Moving on here, we had MJF versus Jungle Boy. And I got to say, this was a really solid match with these guys. This was probably the closest thing to a regular wrestling match. And I'm going to go on a limb here. I don't know if Edge and Randy Orton can top this as far as a regular wrestling match goes. This might be the greatest wrestling match of 2020. Just an old school wrestling match, no gimmicks or anything. MJF using classic heel tactics, selling his knee, but he was actually faking it, trash talking, back and forth with these guys. Jungle Boy hit a destroyer, which MJF popped up from initially with a shot of adrenaline. He super kicked Jungle Boy, but then the impact of the destroyer, he fell on top of Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy managed to kick out at the last minute. Jungle Boy hit a reverse Hurricane Rana to MJF on the apron, and Jungle Boy could have won the match right there, but he refused to take a count out. He got MJF back in the ring. He tried to put MJF away, but he had hurt his arm during the match, was not able to finish off MJF, and MJF did end up picking up the victory after several near falls back and forth with a modified European clutch. Really solid match, like I said, between these guys. And Edge and Orton, you guys got a big one to top, I got to say, because this was a really good normal wrestling match between these guys. So we'll see what Edge and Orton can do at Backlash. Moving on here, we had the TNT Championship match. And before I get to this, Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat says, WWE can't claim greatest anything after what AEW just did. Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. I will say that. It's going to be tough for WWE with Backlash, at least, to top this show. We had the TNT Championship match to crown the first champion. Cody with Arn Anderson against Lance Archer with Jake Roberts. Mike Tyson came out with the championship, which when I first saw it, my thought process was, this belt looks unfinished. Like, it looked like just some random person taking a bunch of soda cans and making their own little backyard championship belt. Like, it did not look complete. And according to the announcers, it is not, in fact, complete. Because of the coronavirus, they have to finish it up. It's not done yet. So they brought out what they had. Unfortunately, this looked Bush League. I know the coronavirus is a factor, but it just, I feel like WWE would not have this problem. Like, they would get the belt done in time for the show. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, Cody did some Superman babyface stuff to win, shaking my head. Well, we'll get to that here in just a second. And thank you for the super chat. And Brian Spencer with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Brian. Says, MJF has the most punchable face of all time. That's a good thing. That's when you know you are a good heel, when you want somebody to punch your face. So MJF is doing something right. I know people on Twitter were talking about, like, did AEW see the negative feedback about the championship? Because they published photos prior to the show going on the air. And some people on Twitter thought that AEW saw negative feedback and decided to say, oh, wait, the title's not finished yet. Who knows what the deal is with this? I'm sure more information will come out. But hopefully they tweak it. It definitely needs to be tweaked, and it's unfortunate that this is what they had for the show here, because, you know, the media outlets with Mike Tyson and everything showing that championship, people are going to say, man, that's an ugly belt. So just an unfortunate scenario for AEW. DJW with a $5 super chat says, the title is ugly as hell. I agree, and you're not big on looks of a title, Aaron, so for you to comment on it means it's really, really bad. I do like title designs. I do think the title designs are important, especially when fans spend a lot of money on replicas. Like, you really want something that looks cool that fans will buy. And fans will, you know, if they're invested in the title, they're going to be invested in the storylines. And they're going to care about who holds the title and all that stuff. So the title design is important, in my opinion. Hoof-hearted with a $5 super chat, thank you for that, says, on the other hand, WWE would just put the logo on top of a different color for a belt. Yeah, they might be lazy about it, but, you know, that's what WWE does. You know, I just think the TNT title, they need to finish it up, tweak it, add more to it, and it'll be fine. Anyways, let's talk about the match. So Lance Archer did his usual entrance with the beatdown of a random person from the backstage area. And Archer right away, right when the match started, hit a blackout. But Cody, being a veteran now, I mean, he's been around. He's not a rookie anymore. He was able to roll to the outside of the ring. They brawled around the ringside area. Archer was trying to use some heel tactics, removing the turnbuckle pad from the top rope corner. The crowd was cheering on Cody, and Big Swole was out there yelling at Archer. That was pretty funny. I'm not sure if it was this match or the casino match, but somebody yelled out MFer very loudly. I forgot which match it was. I forgot to take down the note as to which match it took place in, but there was a very audible F-bomb that was dropped during this show. And somebody says, nice spoiler thumbnail. What the fuck, man? Not a spoiler after it airs. I mean, sorry about that, but I mean, it's commonplace at this stage of the game. I mean, it's been commonplace for a long time now. I mean, WWE does it, AEW does it, so come on. You're really going to get on me for that after all these years? Dylan with a $2 super chat says, I'm okay with Cody winning. He lost the last two matches. I knew people were going to be upset about the finish of this match, so let's get to that. Cody hit the crossroads, and Archer basically powered out of it. And Archer came back, hit a chokeslam, got a near fall. You had Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts kicked out of the ringside area. Arn Anderson was not happy about this. He yelled out bullshit because of this. And then Jake Roberts came back with the snake. He was going to use the snake to try and distract Cody, but Mike Tyson, by the way, Mike Tyson was sitting at ringside and he actually yawned. Unfortunately, the camera caught this. He was yawning, and somebody must have yelled at him, because the next time Tyson was shown, he was like raising his hands up and being all energetic. But Tyson got up, he took off his shirt, and I guess this was enough. Mike Tyson with his shirt off was enough to scare off Jake Roberts. Jake, despite having the snake, backed away, and that's when Cody hit the crossroads, countering the blackout. He hit two of them. The first one did not get the job done, so he hit a second one, and he scored the pinfall victory to become the first TNT champion. I know it wasn't ideal for Archer to lose this match, but I figured Cody would be the better person to represent the title. And like I mentioned on the predictions video, the mainstream public, they will recognize the Rhodes name. And the idea of Dusty Rhodes' son with Mike Tyson, that's going to get more headlines than Mike Tyson raising the hand of Lance Archer. So from a publicity standpoint, I get why Cody won the match, but I agree with you guys that Lance should not be losing this early on. However, he did look pretty strong in defeat. It was a very hard-fought match back and forth between these guys. And Cindy sent in a $5 super chat. Says, off topic, it was Janela who said the F-bomb during the ladder match. Thank you for that, Cindy. I appreciate it. Good to have Cindy in here helping me out with this recap. I appreciate it, Cindy. And DJW with a $5 super chat. Thank you, DJ. Says, I guess this means we're getting a Tyson versus Lance Archer match and like a 2-minute squash or something. Shaking my head. I don't know if we're going to have any follow-up with Mike Tyson. This was probably a one-off if I had to make a prediction on it. I think he was just there to get the publicity for the championship. Afterwards, Tyson congratulated Cody, gave him the title, and JR was like, finally something good has happened in 2020. Nice line there from JR. That was pretty funny. And then we had Kris Statlander versus Penelope Ford, who was replacing the injured Britt Baker. Not much to say about this match. I mean, I would say this was the weakest match of the show. Well, actually, there were two matches that were kind of weak. This was basically just a Dynamite match. Statlander picked up the victory with the Big Bang Theory pile driver. Sabian was out there on crutches. But yeah, not much to it. Just a standard match. And, you know, I really wasn't expecting much since this was a last-minute substitute. So it was basically just something to fill a little bit of time. I mean, they really could just have cutted this out and made the show a little bit shorter. But, oh well, it is what it is. And next up, we had the other filler match, which really did not need to be on the pay-per-view. And that was Shawn Spears versus Dustin Rhodes. Spears came out in the suit. He did not expect Dustin to show up. He had the referee start a 10 count. Brandy came out for distraction, and Dustin showed up from behind and attacked Spears. And this is one of those cases where I like the distraction. When it's the heel getting outsmarted by the babyface, I'll give AEW credit where credit's due for doing the distraction the right way, where the heel gets made a fool out of. Dustin basically won a quick squash match. I mean, went a couple of minutes. Spears got disrobed. He was down to his underwear, and he had a picture of Tully Blanchard by his genitals. That was kind of weird. This felt like something Vince McMahon would find funny. So I'm a little surprised AEW would stoop to the Vince McMahon toilet humor level, but whatever. Dustin won with the final reckoning. Again, not much to say about it. Basically a quick comedy match to fill time. And then we had the AEW Women's Championship match, Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida, which was a no DQ match. You know, I approve of that. This was a really good match. This was one of the best, if not the best, AEW women's match to date, in my opinion. It's too bad they did not have a crowd for this one, because this one was really good. Of course, the best women's match in AEW, and they don't have a crowd. Go figure. But they had a really solid, no DQ, hardcore match here. Dylan with a $2 super chat says, I love AEW but cannot defend that Dustin and Spears match. Well, there you go. Dylan agrees with me on that one. So they fought all over the place in this women's match. Hoof Hearted with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hoof Hearted. Says, Nyla carried her stick to the ring along with the Singapore cane. Okay, Hoof Hearted. Ha, ha, ha. Very funny. Nyla Rose came out with the kendo stick, and they brawled on the outside of the ring. Shida got slammed through the poker table that was set up. I got to give AEW credit again with the set. I love the fact that they had the props and they were using the props as weapons throughout the show. It makes the pay-per-view unique. And it's not too much to ask for. Like, why can't WWE do this with their pay-per-views? Have some custom set pieces. They did do something at WrestleMania, at least, with the sign when Owens jumped off the sign. But I like that AEW had all these casino set pieces out there. You know, the chips, the giant chips, the poker table, which Shida went through. I just think it's cool, and it makes the pay-per-view memorable. And it's a throwback to the old days when you would have the customized sets for the pay-per-views. Joey with the $2 super chat says, actual woman wins the women's title. What a concept. I'll read your guys' super chats, but gotta say I'm not really cool with the knocking of Nyla Rose. I mean, totally not necessary, especially after a woman committed suicide because of cyberbullying. Like, come on, guys. Not cool. Just going to throw that out there. Shida made a short-lived comeback after countering the Beast Bomb, and then Nyla got control again. But then Shida managed to come back again. She hip-tossed Rose onto one of those casino chips that I mentioned, and then Shida did a running knee. I'm getting tired. And we're not talking about Lee just yet. So a running knee onto Rose into one of those other giant chips that were out there. There was like 6 or 7 of them scattered around the ringside area. Shida used the kendo stick on Rose and got her back in the ring. And then Rose set up a table in the ring, powerbombed Shida through the table, but Shida kicked out of it. A little bit of suspension of disbelief, just because Nyla Rose, you know, her size, powerbombing Shida through a table should be a finish, but it wasn't. Shida kicked out. Shida hit an avalanche Falcon Arrow for a near fall, and then followed it up with a running knee strike to pin Nyla Rose and capture the AEW Women's Championship. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised by this. I thought AEW would give Nyla Rose more of a run as champion. But there you go. Shida is your third AEW Women's Champion. I guess the Nyla Rose monster push is over. I would have gone a little bit longer with it, but Shida was definitely building some momentum when the crowds were still there, and you know the people like her. So there you go, new champion. Tony H with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Tony. Says, Nyla Rose is a good wrestler. Who gives a crap about her past? She is good for the division, and why not support that over being IWC clowns people hate? Well said there, Tony H. Good match here between these two, like I said. Actually, I would say it was a really good match, all things considered. let's move on here to our first of two main events. AEW was building this up as a double main event. Jon Moxley versus Brodie Lee from the Dark Order. And before the match, the announcers talked about the importance of entertainment and how AEW is putting a smile on people's faces during difficult times. Kind of felt like WWE a little bit with the putting smiles on people's faces remark. You had security guards out there to keep these two guys, Brodie Lee and Jon Moxley, separated until the match could actually get going. Brodie Lee came out. He still had possession of the AEW Championship. Wild brawl between these two. This was a really, really good match. I would say it was a great match, and it's too bad this did not have a crowd, because I'm telling you, these guys would have torn the house down with a crowd full of people. Like, this would have been a really hot match with a crowd. But as it was, still a really fun match to watch. These guys just beat the crap out of each other, which is what you want to see in a pro wrestling match. You want to see two guys just beat each other up and just have a death-defying match. And that's what these guys had. They held nothing back. Brodie Lee getting slammed through the timekeeper's table. They fought by the staging area. Brodie Lee used one of those cutouts of the deck of cards. Again, I like the set pieces being used as part of the match. And Moxley and Lee were fighting on the staging area and the rampway. Moxley did the paradigm shift to Brodie Lee through the rampway. They broke the rampway since it was the last match before the final match, which was going to be in the stadium. So might as well destroy the set since it's the last match. I thought they were going to end it here. I thought that they were going to do like a double count out or something, but the referee was giving them that leeway and letting them fight on the outside. Both of them got back in the ring. Brodie Lee got busted open during this, and Moxley hit not one but two more paradigm shifts. Lee kicked out of both of them. The first one he kicked out at 1, I think, or maybe right at 2. And then the second one, it was a closer near fall. Moxley, after 3 paradigm shifts that could not put Lee away, he put on a rear naked choke, a sleeper hold to Lee, and instead of tapping out, Lee passed out. The referee stopped the match because Lee passed out. I thought this was about the best finish they could do with Brodie Lee losing. Like, they made Lee look really strong in defeat. So if you were going to do this where Lee's not winning, which I didn't think he was, and I do agree with people that, again, like with Lance Archer, probably too soon for Brodie Lee to be losing. But I think they did about as good of a job they could have here to make Lee look strong in defeat. Dylan with a $2 super chat, thank you Dylan, says, despite the short build-up, Moxley and Lee had a great match. And I agree with that, Dylan. TJS with a $2 super chat says, I feel bad for going off topic, just finished the show. Not a problem, TJS. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And DJW with a $10 super chat, thank you very much for that, says, okay, here's the thing, Aaron. After the eye test from the MJF match and the Mox match, Mox is tough as effing nails, man. I really don't see how you could book MJF now beating Moxley based off of MJF's performance. Well, that's a solid comment here, and I would not put MJF against Moxley right now. I would continue to build up MJF, and I would do a match with MJF where he can survive hardcore style. Kind of like Mick Foley versus Randy Orton from Backlash 2004, where Randy Orton got made that night. I'd like to see MJF against somebody who could put him in that really violent environment, and MJF wins, and that's what sets up MJF versus Moxley. So I definitely think there's more they can do to build him up. I would not book MJF versus Moxley next week, that's for sure. All right, so now we are on to the Stadium Stampede match. What a spectacle this was. This was very outrageous. I mean, it was like a cinematic style, although I will say it was like halfway but in between the WWE cinematic match and a normal match. It was somewhere in the middle. It had moments of being a cinematic match and then other times where it felt like a regular match, like a Falls Count Anywhere match. So nice balance here between the two. You know, the Money in the Bank match was a little bit more like a regular match, but still had, I think, more cinematic elements than this did. They still did a lot of stuff that was very over the top. So let's get to that here. Justin Roberts was not there in Jacksonville, but they did use his voiceover introductions for the entrances. Inner Circle came out since they were playing in a football field or competing in a football field. They made football-style entrances. There were cheerleaders out there. Inner Circle came out with the jerseys and the helmets. Fire was going off everywhere. And the smoke, the fire and smoke pyro. Bobo Beware with a $2 super chat says, this is what the Money in the Bank match should have been. I would say that's a very good point there, Bobo Beware. I would agree with that. Not that the Money in the Bank match was bad or anything, but I mean, this was really an epic showdown with these guys. DJW with a $5 super chat says, I was not feeling those football uniforms the Inner Circle was wearing at all. Huh. DJW not a fan of the jerseys, apparently. See, I'm not a football fan, but I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was a nice touch. You might as well. You're doing a match in a football stadium. Why not? The Elite made their entrances, although there was no sign of Hangman Page. Matt Jackson had his ribs taped up. Walter Cruz with a $10 super chat says, look at the people that were in WWE and what they are doing now in AEW. Goes to show what people can do when a company believes in them and what good booking can do. Well, minus Sean Spears, but yeah, Brodie Lee, Jon Moxley for sure. Dustin Rhodes showing that he's still got it. But at the same time, you can't really blame WWE with Dustin because WWE is always trying to push new talent and not rely on guys from the past. But to Dustin's credit, he's reinvented himself and made himself relevant in 2019 and 2020. So anyways, back to the match. Referee Aubrey Edwards blew the whistle, and then the two teams were on opposite sides of the stadium. They charged each other like a football game, and they started beating each other up with weapons. Hangman Page showed up riding a horse, and he chased Sammy Guevara across the stadium. Eventually, Sammy found his way back to the ring. Page was backstage trying to find out where Guevara was, and he decided he was going to take a break. He left the horse and went inside to the bar area to get himself a drink, because that's some good cowboy shit right there. Back in the stadium, you know, you had these guys. There was a ring set up in the middle of the stadium. They did maybe like 5 minutes of the match in the ring, doing a bunch of dives over the top, and then they started brawling into the stands. Matt Hardy fought with Ortiz and Santana, and Matt Hardy got thrown into a pool. You guys know when somebody gets thrown into a pool, my letter grade gets a bump up because I'm a fan. Going back to when WCW Nitro had those spring break shows and people would get thrown in the pool. I love that stuff. So Matt Hardy got thrown into the pool, and how crazy is that? An actual pool in a football stadium. I guess if you're VIP, you can chill with your lady friends in the pool, watch the football game. I honestly had no idea that such a thing existed, but I guess it does. So anyways, I wonder how expensive those are, by the way. Probably quite expensive. More than I got, that's for sure. But if Big G, Big Baller G, wants to keep sending in those big super chats, maybe one day I can go hang out in one of those pools at a game. So Matt Hardy got thrown into the pool, and then Santana and Ortiz attempted to drown Matt Hardy. And this was a little controversial. I saw on Twitter some people were offended by this, thinking with Shad Gaspard drowning a couple of days ago, was this really the best thing to do under the circumstances? But of course, it was the whole Matt Lake of Reincarnation story that they were telling here. Matt started transforming into the other characters of his past. He was version 1 Matt. They even had the little graphic with the Mattitude facts. And then he was Big Money Matt. And then he was the original, the OG Hardy Boy Matt again. So it was a cool concept, but I know some people felt like maybe it should not have been done under the circumstances. Kenny Omega and Adam Page ended up having a fight with Jake Hager in the bar. First it was Hager and Page sitting down having a drink. They started fighting, and eventually Omega showed up to help Page. They did the buckshot lariat and V-trigger combo, broke some bottles of beer over Hager's head, and then Omega and Page had a little drink. Page drank some whiskey. Omega drank some milk. I think if I had to have one little criticism about this match, I think they should have cut back and forth a little bit more. Not like to the point where WWE does the constant cuts, but I think it would have been a little bit easier to watch, especially after 3.5, 4 hours, if they showed a little bit of Matt Hardy with Santana and Ortiz and then went over to Adam Page and Jake Hager, but instead they showed all the Matt Hardy stuff and then they showed all the Adam Page stuff with Jake Hager. So I would have gone back and forth a little bit more if it was me, but for what it was still very entertaining. I was just so tired by this point. And this match went really long too. I'm not sure if it went longer than the casino ladder match, but it had to be close. It had to be close to 45 minutes. Maybe somebody in the chat room could throw out a number for me as to how long this was. So back in the stadium, Chris Jericho was using a megaphone channeling Jimmy Hart. You had Matt Jackson suplexing Sammy Guevara across the entire 100 yards of the stadium. Jericho gave the Judas effect to the Jacksonville Jaguars mascot who was there. Nick then was throwing footballs at Jericho. They were using all these football props, which again, for this match, totally fitting. Hab Connor with a $5 super chat says, fans can rent one of those 4 poolside cabanas on the first level for $12,500 a game. The package includes 50 tickets, and it is all you can eat and drink. Well, if you got enough well-off friends that can all chip in, I mean, that sounds like a fun time. Thank you for that. Thank you for that info, Hamp. Jericho went for a pinfall on Nick after using his baseball bat, Floyd the Bat. However, Nick kicked out. Jericho was very angry about this. He demanded to Aubrey Edwards that there be an instant replay. So they went into this little curtained off area, and I guess they showed the replay, and it was determined it was in fact a 2 count. Jericho called Aubrey Edwards a, and I quote, shitty referee. Meanwhile, we had Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy bring back the golf cart, Sammy Guevara's worst nightmare. They chased him again with the golf cart. Guevara tried to escape through the stands. Matt went after him. They fought for a while, and Guevara was starting to get the upper hand, and that's when we had Neo 1, Matt Hardy's new drone, because Vanguard 1 was destroyed. We had the new drone arrive, and that was enough for the good guys to get the upper hand again. Kenny Omega took Guevara and did the one-winged angel from the top of this platform in the stands all the way down through this crash pad that was on the ground. It was a crazy one-winged angel. We got a lot of air time there. Slammed him through it, and that was the finish of the match. Great finish. I loved how this looked. 1, 2, 3, the Elite pick up the victory. You had the pyro going off in the stadium. Fun ending to the show. And it was over very close to midnight, right before I started this live stream. Ager Marquez with a $2 super chat says, if you have 50 friends, it equates to $250 a person. Well, there you go, but do you really want to share a poolside area with 50 people? That's the question. I guess maybe some would, but it wasn't that big of a pool. So anyways, this was nuts. I mean, this was a really fun match. The only thing I would have done differently, like I said, maybe went back and forth between the segments a little bit, maybe cut it down a little bit, or just start the pay-per-view earlier. I got to give AEW credit for giving us the absolute most for $50. I mean, this was a $50 pay-per-view. This was not $10 on the WWE Network. So, I mean, they did everything possible to give the viewers the best show for their money. So, I salute AEW for that. I mean, this was probably the best wrestling show of the year. I don't know if WWE will be able to top it with anything else this year. I'm not even sure if AEW could top this. I mean, I feel like it was 100% worth the money. Excellent show from these guys, and if anything, the effort really showed, and the effort is really appreciated from these guys to pull out all the stops and make every match, pretty much every match, the best pay-per-view quality match possible. DJW with a $10 super chat says, no doubt Moxley and Brodie Lee should have been the main event, Aaron, but the Stadium Stampede match was hella entertaining and had me laughing the whole match. A show rating definitely worth the $50. Well, thank you for that, DJ. I very much appreciate that. And Joe E with a $2 super chat says, do you think AEW needs a Mick Foley type of guy? I feel like they already have a bunch of Mick Foley guys. If you're talking about like somebody who doesn't look like a traditional wrestler, who's kind of like the outcast and takes all the crazy risks. I mean, they got Darby Allin for one thing. You could say he's, well, some people call him a modern day Sting or a modern day Jeff Hardy, but I also see the Mick Foley in Darby Allin, and I see the Mick Foley in a lot of the guys. I mean, you're looking at a generation of guys that were influenced by Mick Foley. I mean, let's be real here. Noah Foster with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Noah. Says, this was the best wrestling show so far this year. Worth every penny. A show. This is what we all needed during these quarantine times. And Kim Hall with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Kim. Says, was I the only one that wanted the mascot to spear Jericho and then reveal themselves to be a new signee? That would have been interesting. That would have been a fun thing to do if AEW had access. You guys got to keep in mind, a lot of those 90-day non-compete clauses are not they're still in effect, so they're not expired. So we weren't going to see anybody like Rusev on this show. Plus, I think, AEW should probably not debut any new people until you got the regular crowds again. But yeah, for a show with only the wrestlers and crew as the fans, this was about as great of a show as you could ask for. So I give it a solid A, almost a perfect show. If you were able to do this show with a crowd, probably would have been an A+. Like, it was right up there with the best pay-per-views that AEW has done. They have not fumbled yet, to use a football reference. Every pay-per-view AEW has done, they've pulled out all the stops, and they've given people their money's worth. So, props to AEW. Thank you guys in AEW for putting on a great show. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, staying up with me almost to midnight. I am exhausted. It's a struggle to do these live streams so late. I was on the West Coast for all those years, and it was a lot easier to do these videos at 8 or 9 o'clock Pacific time. But doing it past midnight, it's tough. It is a struggle. And I'm becoming old too, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore, as they say. Ken Terminated by Google with a $5 super chat says, Rift, my bad for changing the topic. Not a problem, Ken. He says, just checking if AEW mentioned Hannah's name and just being one of your favorite moderators, my man. You are one of my favorite people to have on here, Ken. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you all, everybody, for tuning in, participating in the chat room. DJ W with a $5 super chat says, Big Baller G can afford the 12 grand. Just make sure everyone has no DQ on. Yes, yes, and yes. Absolutely. Gotta promote no DQ if we're gonna make that kind of investment. And Joe E with a $2 super chat says, do you miss the West Coast? Ever live in NorCal? I do miss the West Coast. Did not live in NorCal. Lived in SoCal and then Portland, Oregon, but not the northern part of California. Still a beautiful part of the country. Michael Wayne gives the show an A-. Calvin Bowman, A+. Dylan with an A. Kane Yo-Yo with a solid A. Curtis Butler with a B+. Jeffrey with an A-. D-Ross 2 with an A. And Joe E with an A. Ace and his familiar vlogs with a C. That's probably the lowest rating I've seen in here. But otherwise, looks like everybody was thoroughly impressed with this show. I recommend checking out the replay if you did not see it, for sure. So that's all I got tonight. Thank you all again. I will be back with no DQ&A video coming up. 7 Eastern will be the premiere. Check it out Sunday night, no DQ&A video. And then Monday night, back with another Raw live stream. Have a great night, everybody. Be safe and take care. See you all next time.